Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. My name is Taskin Koshman. I'm the Regional Director of Serba Kazakhstan and Canada-Kazakhstan Business Council Coordinator. Today, I'm happy to welcome you at our event, which is devoted to the 29th years of bilateral relations between Canada and Kazakhstan and 30 years of independence of Kazakhstan. Also, very important to know today, let me express my warm wishes to you and your family on Eid al-Fitr. May Allah bring you lots of joy, happiness, and good health. Wishing you a happy Eid. So today's event was supported by the Embassy of Kazakhstan to Canada and organized by Canada-Eurasia-Russia Business Association. We have more than 140 member companies, and we operate in 6 chapters in Canada and in Russia, in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. So if you are not a member, please join us. Our colleagues in Canada and other regions will be gladly helping to you to promote, develop trade and business relationship between Canada and Eurasia. And now let me invite our moderator, Mr. Gordon Haskins. Gordon is a CEO and Management Director of the Chairman Management Board of Al Hilal Bank in Kazakhstan, and he is a Serba Kazakhstan board member. Gordon?
Thanks very much, Taskin. It's my pleasure to moderate this session today. We have a very distinguished panel of speakers for you to hear from today. But before I turn over to that, I also wanted to reiterate Taskin's warm wishes on this joyous day of Eid, and I would like to personally pass on my congratulations and best wishes to everybody for this holiday. We are going to start with the respective ambassadors from Kazakhstan and Canada, and then we will be following with a, as I say, a very distinguished list of speakers. From a very rough calculation that I did, I think we collectively have probably 75 to 80 years of career experience amongst our Kazakh colleagues, and I think in excess of 75 years of collective experience in Kazakhstan amongst our foreign speakers who are with us today. So I think that in itself says a lot about what people will be able to say and some of the insights they may be able to give you. So with that, I would like to hand over to His Excellency Ambassador Kamel Genov, Ambassador of Kazakhstan to Canada.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good morning and good evening, dear friends. I'm very happy to see all of you. And I'm very happy seeing new faces. Mr. Alexander Vilovich, very welcome. Very nice to meet you. And dear friends, good to see you. First of all, I would like to welcome everyone and thank Serba Kazakhstan for all of the organization work that has been done to prepare today's conference. Many thanks to all of the distinguished speakers and participants for joining us today. Today, Kazakhstan is at a very important stage of its development. On December 16th this year, we will celebrate the 30th anniversary of the independence of our country. Over the past almost 3 decades, our country has achieved a lot. Kazakhstan has a GDP of about 165 billion US dollars, which has increased 16-fold since independence. It is the largest economy in Central Asia, accounting for more than half of the region's GDP. My government is committed to supporting foreign investors. Over the last 25 years, Kazakhstan attracted about 350 billion US dollars of foreign investment, which is about 70% of all investment into Central Asia. In 2020, the World Bank ranked Kazakhstan 25th of 190 countries in the Doing Business report. In March 2019, Kazakhstan's people elected a new president, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev. Currently, under his presidency, our state is implementing large-scale reforms in the field of economic diversification, and developing fair competition and green economy. On January 10, 2021, parliamentary election to Majlis, its lower chamber of National Parliament of Kazakhstan, were held, and third phase of political reforms have been initiated. February last year, President Tokayev met with Prime Minister Trudeau at the margin of Munich Security Conference. They reaffirmed their commitment to further promoting bilateral relations in the political, economic, and humanitarian spheres. Kazakhstan and Canada have been successfully developing friendly and mutual beneficial relationships. On April 10 this year, we have celebrated the 29th anniversary of diplomatic relations between our countries. The first president of Kazakhstan, Elbasy Nursultan Nazarbayev, visited Canada in June 23 at the invitation of Prime Minister Mr. Jean Chrétien. In December 2018, the Right Honorable Julie Payette, former Governor General of Canada, visited Kazakhstan. It was the first visit to Kazakhstan and Central Asia by a Canadian Governor General. Canada is one of the largest investment partners of Kazakhstan. Since 2005, gross FDI from Canada to Kazakhstan has exceeded 6.3 billion Canadian dollars. More than 170 enterprises with the participation of Canadian companies are operating in Kazakhstan. There are good indicators, but far from the limit of our capabilities. We believe that there is a great untapped potential to develop a joint business cooperation in different sectors of economy, which we are very keen to develop. Despite the negative impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on trade and economic cooperation between Kazakhstan and Canada, I'm sure that this is a temporary phenomenon, and we are ready to work together with our Canadian partners in increasing the dynamics of the bilateral cooperation. Dear friends, I would like to express my thanks to all those who provided their great contribution into development of our comprehensive relations between Kazakhstan and Canada. And thank you very much for your attention. Stay safe.
Ambassador, thank you very much for those opening words. It's my pleasure now to hand over to His Excellency Ambassador Brousseau, Canada's ambassador to Kazakhstan. Ambassador.
Thank you so much, Gordon. You hear me well? It's good? Perfect. So dear colleagues, dear friends, Hanimdam and Mirzalar, Dami Gaspada, first of all, Eid Mubarak. I wish you all also a very peaceful year ahead and all the best on the occasion of this very important celebration today. It's a real pleasure to join my dear friend, Ambassador Kamel in welcoming you in today's conference. This year, 2021 marks the 30th anniversary of the independence of the Republic of Kazakhstan, quite an important milestone. And I'm even told that our dear friend, Ambassador Stock, that we will be hearing soon, has played a key role in that recognition, but I'll let her tell the story. Much has been accomplished during those 30 years, Kazakhstan becoming a country no expert at the time thought would survive on its own for more than a few years. But first President Nazarbayev proved them all wrong. And thanks to his vision and steady actions, Kazakhstan has become the most prosperous of all Central Asian countries and a dynamic middle-income country. It also became a regional leader and a global player. Kazakhstan is the first Central Asian country to have sat on the UN Security Council not that long ago. And it is also one of the very few countries in the world that has renounced what was at the time the fourth largest nuclear arsenal to become an advocate for peace and nuclear disarmament. That is quite an achievement. It established a world-renowned forum for the dialogue of religions and hosted countless fora and summits, including within the framework of the OSCE. It also joined most international organizations, including the WTO, and was supposed to host the WTO's 12th Ministerial Conference before the global pandemic hit us all. It created recently its own COVID vaccine, Kazavac, quite an achievement, which could contribute to defeating this terrible virus. Much remains to be done for Kazakhstan to join the 30 most developed country in the world by 2050. But as Ambassador Kamaldinov pointed out, President Tokayev and the country's leadership have established an ambitious reform agenda, and I have no doubt that they will succeed, as they succeeded before. Therefore, when we look at Kazakhstan, we need always to remember what it was in 1991 and what it has become. And to be frank with you, this is to a certain extent a small miracle, but it is probably time for me to go, as I have gone native, as we say in the diplomatic jargon. But make no mistakes, Central Asia is a tough neighborhood. And I was a little bit late at this conference because we have a small issue with a neighboring country, so it's never simple. It is not surrounded by three oceans and a democratic superpower. Kazakhstan's geographic position, nested between Russia and China in a region prone to wars and revolutions, dictates its successful multi-vector approach to foreign policy and trade, which we saw in action over the last 30 years. And as we say in diplomacy, there's one thing you can't change. It's the geographic location of your country. Kazakhstan has made the most out of it. Not many people know, for example, that Kazakhstan's largest trading partner is the EU, not Russia and China. And not many people know that Canada still ranks among the largest investors in this country with an FDI at well above $3 billion. Since Kazakhstan's independence, our relationship has been developing exponentially and in every area, as outlined Akilbek just before me, from official visits to bilateral cooperation and of course, economic and trade relations. Recent years saw an increase in high-level contacts, which Akilbek and I like to credit to ourselves, of course. But with the visit of the Governor General, Julie Payet, in 2018, but also regular contact between our leaders, including between the Prime Minister Trudeau and President Tokayev on the margin of the Munich conference last year, and our foreign minister spoke last June. And we just saw the latest round of political consultation at the vice ministerial level just last month. So despite the pandemic, it's been quite an active year. And despite the pandemic, trade and investment relations have continued to develop, and multiple virtual trade fairs in our beloved KCBC, which was a major success, were held last fall. Canadian companies and Canadians have played an important role in Kazakhstan's success story. This is very true of our main investment in Kazakhstan, the JV Inkai between Camaco and Kazatomprom. I am confident that this will continue because we have engaged business leaders on both sides, and both our embassy teams are working hand in hand to make this happen. It is these personal connections that make international commerce work. They are the core of our bilateral relationship. And despite COVID-19, the KCBC successfully drew together senior business and government representatives. It set out roadmaps for future growth, and we are fortunate to have many of those representatives of some of our most committed companies speaking today. Tim Gitzel from Camaco, a key player in Kazakhstan's world-leading uranium industry, also serves as co-chair of the Kazakhstan and Canada Business Council and is also Kazakhstan Honorary Consul in Saskatchewan. Norman Storm from Condor Petroleum, one of Kazakhstan's longest present foreign investor, chair our business association, SERBA. David Barker and Mark Finley, top managers at EXIM Trading and Arctic Group International, are also on SERBA's board of directors. And I'm very happy to see that Mr. Bilovich will also be speaking. We had the pleasure of having lunch together not long ago with his son Pavel, and I know he is very engaged also in the bilateral relationships. So a real pleasure to see you, Mr. Bilovich. They are also representative of many other innovative business leaders that will drive our relationship forward. And I like to thank them all and all the speakers. Your efforts strengthen our bilateral relationship. And I look forward to hearing from all of you today. Rahmet, spasiba большое, merci, thank you, and over to you, Gord. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I was just thinking, if after 4 years there are concerns about you going native, I wonder what that says about the rest of us from the foreign side who are on this call. But thank you very much for those very interesting words and overview of the relationship. I now have the pleasure to introduce Margaret Stock, former ambassador to Canada and somebody who is very familiar with the region, with Kazakhstan and the wider region. And it is a very great pleasure. Margaret, over to you.
Thank you so much for the lovely introductions and the comments, and congratulations on Eid. Excellencies, distinguished speakers, Serba, and all of those who have made an effort throughout these years for this relationship. I was thinking it's 29 years, it's a generation, and it's a generation which did not grow up in the Soviet Union. And it's a generation that was not educated in the Soviet Union. I shall make mistakes in dates and facts, and please correct me later or now. I've not kept all my notes, and I would have not appreciated the history of Kazakhstan and its peoples and its changes had I not begun working at our embassy in Moscow in February 1991. There are many imperatives, as well as many drivers, which contributed to developing successful diplomatic relations. Canada and Kazakhstan established diplomatic relations in July 1992. I had been to Almaty before, and therefore, when I was chosen to then accompany our ambassador in Moscow, Ambassador Michael Richard Bell. The ceremony was elegant, impressive, and it was the first time I had seen former President Nazarbayev. Our accommodations were at the Hotel Kazakhstan on now what is Dostik, and it was also our representation office until later on when we moved to our embassy in Almaty. And before I forget, because I could, I want to thank the government of Kazakhstan, the many people who worked with us, but also Alexander Bilovich, who made it possible to establish a new embassy in the new capital. Really critical. I appreciate your partnerships. I want to step back a bit. Why do countries establish diplomatic relations? Number one, in order to represent our interests. Two, in order to gather information. Two, inform our future directions. Three, to expand political, economic, and cultural ties. And three, to facilitate the observance of bilateral international laws, which include membership in multilateral and international organizations. In 1989, the first secretary of the Communist Party of Kazakh Soviet Socialist Republic, His Excellency Nazarbayev, later on was offered by the former president of the Soviet Union, Gorbachev, to become the prime minister of the Soviet Union. For a number of reasons, he turned it down. In August 18th, 1991, at 5:30 a.m., I heard what I thought was thunder. The morning sky seemed clear. My kids woke up early, so I was up. I looked out my dining room window on Kutuzovsky Prospect, which looks out onto the White House. I look down, and I see for the first time in the streets of Moscow since World War II, tanks rolling in. And I call our embassy, and history pivots at this point. And another development around this time Everyone remembers that the nuclear polygon in Kazakhstan, where I've now been 3 times, during Soviet times, approximately 500 above and below ground nuclear tests happened in Semipalatinsk, now Semey. These had stopped, but August 91, there was some anxiety about developments there. And former President Nazarbayev on August 21st, 91, this is before Kazakhstan had become an independent republic, made a declarative move and he closed the nuclear test site. The official republic was established December 31st. It is no surprise then, and you will hear from Mr. Gitzel, it's no surprise then in that later years, nuclear non-proliferation became a priority. Agreements were signed, multilateral, international, as well as one with Canada. 92, 93, one of our corporate pioneers was Camaco. Another driver, because Kazakhstan is also an agriculture country like Canada, we had, because of also in experience in the former Soviet Union, we had from Canada a fellow who was building swathers. I think in Russian, называются жатки, swathers. Don Wallace, Don Mar Manufacturing. He was given the ability in 89 to establish his presence in northern Kazakhstan and established a plant where he didn't just transfer the swathers, but he actually was building them. These were important because they had 9 meter blades, which was important for huge tracts of land. This is also important in terms of northern Kazakhstan, which was ceded to Kazakhstan during the Russian Empire. So another thing that began very early on, I feel sorry for all the young people that started working in 91. I can't believe how quickly everyone worked. But the demarcation, delimitation, land borders, discussions on rules, regulations, investment, and in 1995, you already had your first constitution in Kazakhstan. The other area, when we've mentioned it, and we've got our other corporate pioneers there, there is no mineral, dark earth metal in Kazakhstan they all exist. And so they paved the way, a natural path for our mining companies and later on our energy companies. Oil and gas, one of the things that Kazakhstan did not possess was oil exploration equipment and drilling, offshore drilling. And that also paved the way for Canada and its partners to participate on the Caspian Sea in offshore drilling. The other area was dual purpose cattle. We began to change that around with both dairy and beef cattle, and the Canadian Cattlemen's Association was pivotal. And I remember being with them in Alatal, and they walked part of the mountains, not all of them. They were farmers, not mountaineers, Tian Shan Mountains. And they were hosted by President Nazarbayev. They will never forget that. And then we have Saskatchewan, and we have the education forces, and we have the universities, we have the Port Council, and we have more farmers. And then later on, we have the Right Honorable, our former Prime Minister, Chrétien, who invites President Nazarbayev to come to Canada. Comes to Canada, I think it was 2004, comes to Ottawa, but he goes to Saskatchewan. And there is a photo here that you're going to see. It's a historical photo. There are a couple of young people there, a young former President Nazarbayev and a young former Saskatchewan Premier Grant Devine. Hard to forget that these are the things that bound us in terms of our imperatives and our drivers. I will end there, but I wanted to thank everybody, including the President, including former prime ministers at the time, Tokayev and Masimov, when I was there, who supported us, who gave Canada always an audience, even though I spent a lot of time in courts, and so did some of our companies, it was always to the best results. I thank the president. I thank our ambassadors, Kamel, Genov, and Rousseau. And I thank our corporate pioneers and our educational institutions for giving me the opportunity to have actually experienced this new country, still young. Thank you.
Margaret, thank you very much for a truly fascinating bit of personal history as well as country history for Kazakhstan and the birth of Kazakhstan. Really fascinating to hear from somebody who was here at the time of formation of Kazakhstan as a new nation, and also to hear some of the developments that happened since then. Thank you very much for that. I would now like to turn over to some speakers from the Kazakhstan side, starting with Yerjan Saltabayev. He is the director of the Institute of World Economics and Politics under the Nursultan Nazarbayev Foundation. Mr. Saltabayev, I will turn over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good day, distinguished participants. It is my pleasure to welcome you to today's online conference. On behalf of the IWEP, I would like to thank the organizers of the event, represented by the staff of the Canadian Embassy in Kazakhstan, for the opportunity to address and share with you my observations on today's agenda. I have to say that IWEP is an institution that operates under the auspices of the foundation of Nursultan Nazarbayev, who is the first president of Kazakhstan and now held the title of Elbashi, which in Kazakh means the leader of the nation, and still contributed so much for the development of our country. So for 30 years of independence, Kazakhstan has secured the status of the country with a very comprehensive development approach in the international arena. In my following statement, I want to address two key areas of Kazakhstan development as a sovereign state, the economic sphere and the unique model of the country's foreign policy. First, economy. Kazakhstan, by many measures, is the leader among the Central Asian and post-Soviet countries. In the United Nations Human Development Index, according to data for 2020, Kazakhstan ranked 51st out of almost 200 countries, ahead of all former post-Soviet countries, including Russia. In Kazakhstan, by many measures, is the leader among the Central Asian and post-Soviet countries, as I said. For example, the UNESCO Education for All Development Index in 2020, Kazakhstan took the 7th place in the rating. It is worth noting that Kazakhstan was ranked in the top 10 countries out of more than 100 countries for the last 10 years. The pathway to this success has not been an easy one. Roughly 30 years of independence could be divided into several major phases in the development of the Kazakhstani economic model. The first stage was the period after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 91 to 2000, when Kazakhstan, along with other post-Soviet countries, faced serious challenges. In addition to the lack of government institutions and statehood as such, our country was also in a very deep economic crisis. This includes hyperinflation, which reached almost 3,000% in 92, a decline in GDP by more than 30% between 92 and 95, and the loss of more than 1.5 million workplaces. But nevertheless, because of very prompt policy responses designed by our first president, Mr. Nursultan Nazarbayev, the country managed to avoid economic collapse. And an important milestone in this regard was the introduction of the national currency tenge in 93, and as well the program of privatization, which provided new revenues to the budget. So after the start of the 2000 oil super cycle, Kazakhstan GDP accelerated very rapidly. Industry, agriculture actively developing, and the volume of foreign trade was growing rapidly. By now, if I'm not mistaken, the foreign trade turnover of Kazakhstan is more than 90 billion USD. In 2000, Kazakhstan was the first among former Soviet countries to obtain the market economy status. Kazakhstan GDP grew 32-fold from from roughly 5 billion USD in 93 to more than 164 billion in 2020. GDP per capita increased 28-fold from 305 USD in 93 to 8,700 in 2020, which nowadays puts Kazakhstan in the group of countries with upper middle income. Due to accumulated financial reserves, Kazakhstan successfully managed to get through the crisis of 2008-2009 and the current crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. In total, the assets of National Fund and the foreign reserves of Kazakhstan increased 80-fold from 2.1 billion in 93 to 164.7 billion USD in 2020. Today, Kazakhstan economic policy is aimed at implementing the Kazakhstan 2050 strategy, the main goal of which is to become one of the 30 most developed countries in the world by 2050. To achieve this goal, an integrated approach to the comprehensive development of the country economy is required. Over the past decade, Kazakhstan has made a qualitative leap as an actor of the global economic system. The sum net of the FDI inflows amounted to about 350 billion USD. According to the World Bank's Doing Business report, Kazakhstan ranked 55th country with the best investment climate in the region. Kazakhstan accounted for 70% of all investments in Central Asian countries. Despite the fact that the recent decade was very challenging for our economy and owing to the effects of COVID-19 pandemic, according to the Moody's agency, I'm quoting, in 2021, Kazakhstan loan portfolio reflects the growing economic sustainability of the country, end of quote. Second, foreign policy. A distinctive feature of Kazakhstan's foreign policy has become so-called multi-vector policy, which implies balanced relations with all partners based on respect for mutual interests and beneficial cooperation. The multi-vector policy of Kazakhstan was founded by the first president, Nursultan Nazarbayev, and a number of important factors contributed to the success of this policy. Firstly, nuclear-free policy of our country. On August 29, 1991, Kazakhstan became the first country in the world to close a nuclear test site. Closing of the Semipalatinsk nuclear test site, which operated for 40 years, is one of the two main achievements of Kazakhstan non-proliferation policy at the early days of independence. The second point was the renunciation of the world's fourth nuclear arsenal inherited from the USSR. These two steps have given Kazakhstan trust and respect of the international partners. Effective transition from nuclear to non-nuclear status allows Kazakhstan to attract investments from all over the world. Today, Kazakhstan continues to promote its anti-nuclear policy, calling on the international community to renounce nuclear weapons. Kazakhstan is a party to all international treaties, including the CTBT, the NPT, and the NWFZ nuclear weapons-free zone, which contribute to the establishment of a world free from the threats of a nuclear war. I would like to note also that the IWP and the Nursultan Nazarbayev Foundation are also actively involved in the process of establishing an open international dialogue on nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament. In November 2020, we organized an international online conference to promote the Global Alliance of Leaders for Nuclear Security and World Free of Nuclear Weapons initiative of Nursultan Nazarbayev. This initiative was first put forward on the site of the Astana Club, which will be described in more detail later. The creation of the alliance was supported by well-known politicians and experts. The appeal of the alliance adopted during the conference was registered as an official United Nations document. Secondly, an important aspect of the multi-vector approach was Kazakhstan's membership in international organizations, as well as the initiation of its own international platforms for global dialogue. Today, Kazakhstan is a member of more than 70 international organizations, among them the UN, OSCE, IMF, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, IAA, and so on. Located at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, Kazakhstan's membership in OSCE, for example, is one of the most important areas of cooperation with the West. Kazakhstan joined the OSCE back in 1992. In 2010, Kazakhstan became the chairman of the organization, and for the first time in 11 years, after a very long break in the work of the OSCE, the meeting of all heads of OSCE states was held in the capital of Kazakhstan, following which the Astana Declaration was adopted. In 2017, Kazakhstan became the first Central Asian state to be elected as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council. In addition, Kazakhstan initiated the creation and development of such international organizations as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Turkey Council, and the Eurasian Economic Union. All these organizations are important for the security and development of the region. We also successfully launched the Conference on Interaction and Confidence Building Measures in Asia, CICA, which was first announced by the first president Nursultan Nazarbayev in the year 92 at the session of UN General Assembly. Today, the members of the organization account for 90% of the territory of Asia. CICA is the only organization in Asia that unites all Asian countries on the agenda of regional security. Thirdly, a distinctive feature of Kazakhstan foreign policy has been its role as a mediator in the resolution of international conflicts. An important achievement was the Astana peace process aimed at ending the Syrian conflict, which has been held since January 2017 in Astana, now Nur-Sultan. As a result, it was possible to bring together representatives of the armed opposition, the official Assad regime, as well as the guarantors of the peace process, including Turkey, Iran, and Russia. Another interesting case, which is rarely discussed, is the Almaty talks on the Iranian nuclear issue, which facilitated the eventual signing of a historical document, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, on Iran's nuclear program in 2015. In February and April 2013, P5+1 negotiations were organized in the southern capital of Kazakhstan, the city of Almaty, which opened the way for the so-called Iranian nuclear deal. Thus, Kazakhstan's peacekeeping activities are very extensive and have proved their effectiveness in practice. In turn, IWP and Nursultan Nazarbayev Foundation also contributed to the strengthening the global dialogue as the organizers of the Astana Club dialogue platform. In 5 years, the Astana Club has become an influential platform on the topic of so-called Greater Eurasia, which is attended by world-famous politicians, experts, diplomats, as well as representatives of major global companies. At the 5th meeting of the Astana Club in November 2019, such different world figures as the former head of the European Union, Jose Manuel Barroso, the chairman of the board of JP Morgan, J. Craig Frankel, Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif, and Nobel laureate El Baradei gathered at the same table. And this is not counting to the 50 other participants, including former heads of state, government, leading experts from more than 30 countries, including Russia, China, India, Japan, and others. In addition, on the basis of the Astana Club, IWP issues an annual global risk rating, top 10 risks for Eurasia. The top 10 risks report for 2021 was prepared on the basis of a survey of more than 1,200 respondents from 75 countries. This year's Astana Club in 2021 meeting is scheduled for mid-November. The main discussion will be dedicated to the post-pandemic era and challenges of the recovery from COVID-19 crisis. Dear colleagues, the 30th anniversary of independence is an important milestone in the history of modern Kazakhstan. On the one hand, a lot has been passed and a lot has been done. On the other hand, more is to come and more is to be achieved. And plans are being implemented to achieve even high development goals. Kazakhstan has achieved everything on its own, and at the same time has always acted in close cooperation with its partners. Among them is Canada, which with diplomatic relations were established on April 10, 1992, in the first month of our independence. Kazakhstan and Canada have a lot in common. This is a huge territory, a relatively low population density. These are vast natural resources and a similar climate. This is multiculturalism, when representatives of different ethnic and religious groups live peacefully under the same sky and flag. In 2020, the whole world was united by the COVID-19 pandemic, which showed the world the importance of jointly countering the challenges of our time. I hope that our both countries will strengthen further cooperation in the spirit of friendship, trust, and mutual benefit. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sultabayev, for that very comprehensive overview. I think it's interesting to note not only some of the the similarities between Canada and Kazakhstan that you mentioned, but also picking up on some of the multilateral and non-proliferation themes that you discussed. I think Canada, it's fair to say, has been instrumental similarly over the decades, and interesting to compare and think about some of the similarities on that front as well. For example, with one of Canada's post-war prime ministers being instrumental in establishing the first United Nations peacekeeping mission. So I think there are many things there that we do share between Canada and Kazakhstan. I would now like to turn over to Alexander Belovich. He is the CEO of Basis A Corporation. And Mr. Belovich, over to you now.
Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги.
Colleagues, so congratulations with it. I'm a representative of business, and on the basis of our company and its example on development of our company, you can see and track how construction was developed in our country. I can refer to several examples. In 1993, we buy in Canada, in Toronto, equipment of concrete. It was the first modern plant. It was the year 1999, at the beginning of 3 years of independence of Kazakhstan. That plant is still functioning successfully for many years. 1997, we buy in Canada special forms to produce houses or models of new standard, of new generation. And we can say that starting from 1997, we started to build similar buildings as Canada, as they build in Canada, in the US, as the whole world builds. 1998. And we start the construction of a new capital in Astana. We are given the task to build the first building in the new city, in the new country, the building of the Ministry of Finance. In order to build that building, we invite the Canadian engineers who helped us to design this building and helped us to control the quality and ensure the quality of construction. 2003, we built with participation of the Canadian specialists a bridge in Exim motor bridge. It's a technology to build such buildings. It's widely spread nowadays in our country, and many companies are working on the basis of this very technology, starting from the first years of cooperation with Canada. But we started to cooperate with the year 1993. We tried to attract a lot of specialists, a lot of people to train our personnel. We attracted technologies, and we were so interested in building the standard of houses and residence like in Canada. I can say to every participant of this meeting, as soon as we are leaders in the sphere of building in our country, in the modern building, which we do have in our country, all the buildings, modern buildings, residential buildings where citizens of our country live, they are and where possible, thanks to the Canadian technologies and Canadian specialists, which we started to disseminate. Thanks to our company, all the technologies available in our country were disseminated. And now we work in close cooperation with architects, with specialists from the construction area of Canada. So much unites us with Canada. You know that we built the building of the Embassy of Canada in Kazakhstan, and I'm so grateful to Ambassador Margaret Stock, to Mr. Nicholas Rousseau, for support rendered to our company by them. Of course, ahead we have so many activities to develop. Our country develops dynamically, and we improve our cooperation with Canada, and this will help us to make our country a highly educated, highly professional country with the highly developed technologies. And nowadays, our company is engaged not only in building, but in agriculture. We shall attract Canadian technologies, technological solutions of Canada to produce products in agriculture. We actively work with specialist institutes of Canada, which deal with recreational centers. And we see that in Niagara, there is a recreational park. It's a huge one. We want to build something similar in Kazakhstan, in Almaty, or in one of the cities of our country. And in the nearest future, you will hear and see that the project started to get implemented. And we do have a lot of other contact areas which we want to use with Canadian specialists to develop different other technologies. We are always open to cooperation. Our company is very fond to cooperate with professionals of Canada. We like the country, and we hope that our future, the future of our company, and the future of building and the development of building area in Kazakhstan will use a lot of ideas which we can find in Canada, not only in this area in building, but in other spheres of the country economy. Thank you very much.
Mr. Belovich, thank you very much for that overview. It's very interesting to hear some of the personal connections that you have through your business with Canada. There really is such a rich history of business and in industrial cooperation between the countries, and it's very interesting to hear from your personal perspective. So thank you for that. I would now like to turn over to the speakers from our Canadian side, and coming back to Ambassador Brousseau's comment, if perhaps anybody has gone native in Kazakhstan, it may be Mr. Norman Storm, who is chairman of Serba Kazakhstan and has been working here for more than 20 years now as general director of Condor Petroleum. So Norman, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Gordon. Much appreciated. And good morning and good evening to everyone who's participating today in this webinar. In addition to being the managing director of Condor Petroleum, also the chairman of the Kazakhstan chapter of the Canada, Eurasia, Russia Business Association. It's really an honor to be invited by the ambassadors of Kazakhstan and Canada, Excellencies Kamel and Brousseau, to speak on this special occasion. I would like to thank them very much, as well as the organizing committee for their great work in putting this event together. 29 years of bilateral relations between Kazakhstan and Canada, and 30 years of independence for the Republic of Kazakhstan. Not a long time in the annals of human history, however, this has been a period of significant achievements, economic growth, and nation building for Kazakhstan and its peoples. I am proud that Canada is one of the first countries to recognize Kazakhstan's independence, and even more proud of the commitment and investment made by Canada's business community in multiple sectors of the Kazakh economy: natural resources, energy, construction, agriculture, infrastructure development, education, and healthcare. I've had the privilege of working in Kazakhstan for more than 25 years, and I've been able to watch and participate in the rapid development and modernization of the country. Condor Petroleum represents one of the many Canadian companies who have adopted Kazakhstan as their home. Over the past 15 years, Condor has been active in the country, And during this time, it has invested more than $250 million in its oil and gas projects. I have also personally participated in other projects in the transportation, manufacturing, mining, and infrastructure sectors during my time in the country. Although the oil and gas sector can be risky and capital intensive, especially when conducting grassroots exploration, Condor was able to reduce its geological and operational risk through the implementation of new technologies and techniques. The company was fortunate to have multiple oil and gas discoveries, and several of these discoveries were later developed and transitioned into commercial production. Although the time required to obtain commercial production contract was a lengthy one, the process was clearly defined and closely followed the guidelines and procedures laid out in the subsoil code. Since then, a new subsoil code was adopted in June 2018, which further streamlined and simplified licensing for exploration territories. And in the case of energy projects, adopted a unified exploration production contract regime. These changes make it easier for companies to enter exploration licensing rounds and later transition discoveries into the commercial production phase. Every country has its own laws and business procedures, and I believe that it is important for Canadian investors and trade partners to take the time to learn and understand these processes. I think that it is fair to say that Kazakhstan has a fairly high level of bureaucracy compared to Canada and North America in general. This bureaucracy needs to be carefully navigated and followed to do business successfully, but at the same time, the system works. The government continues to modernize and streamline its institutions and procedures, and a good example of this is the eGov system. All registered companies have access to this electronic database, which greatly simplifies applications, approvals, the transfer of information between government and business, and ensures a more timely and transparent interaction between the parties. The identity and strength of every country boils down to its people. Human resources are a critical component of business success. And this is one area where Kazakhstan really shines. In my time in the country, our employees and managers have always demonstrated a willingness to improve their skills through company-sponsored education programs and training courses. This self-improvement leads to more motivated and efficient workforce and enhances the effectiveness of the company and allows it to operate with only minimal in-country expat presence. A skilled local management team also allows the organization to stay in tune with reporting and monitoring legislation and develop fit-for-purpose strategies to effectively work in the local market. I would highly recommend any Canadian companies that are interested in looking for new markets to seriously consider the opportunities available in Kazakhstan. The Central Asia market is substantial, close to 75 million inhabitants, and the main economic growth drivers in the region compare favorably with those of Canada: agriculture, mining, oil and gas, renewable energy, infrastructure, construction, education, innovative technologies, and public health. Condor remains committed to Kazakhstan, and we are currently formalizing a feasibility study and business plan, which would lead to a further $150 million in investments over the next 2 years. Critical to this investment is the support that Condor is receiving from all levels of government, including the Embassy of Kazakhstan to Canada, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Sovereign Wealth Casino, the Exim of the city of Almaty, Kazakh Invest, the Ministry of Investments and Development, and the Ministry of Energy. Given the government of Kazakhstan's forward-thinking actions to promote additional foreign direct investment, special economic zones were set up in multiple regions throughout the country. These SEZs offer numerous tax incentives to companies who wish to establish industrial, commercial, or financial service businesses in the country. In closing, I would just like to say there are many investment opportunities available to Canadian companies who wish to set up in Kazakhstan. Although the bureaucratic system can be challenging at times, as with every new market, it is important to take the time to understand how the system works and then take a long-term view of doing business. It is important to build a good national management group and look for business associates or partners who understand your business and who will be able to help promote and defend your project in the Kazakhstan marketplace. The government continues to look for ways to improve ease of doing business in the country, and strides that were made over the past 30 years in this regard are truly amazing. Kazakhstan, as I said previously, now stands 25th in the World Bank's rankings, which compares very favorably to Canada's 23rd position. And Kazakhstan has goals to reach 20th on the index by 2025. And given the country's achievements since gaining independence 30 years ago, I would not want to bet against them achieving this goal. Thanks, everyone.
Norm, thanks very much for that. Very interesting insights that you've been able to provide us with your decades of experience of doing business here in Kazakhstan, and I'm sure some of our speakers have benefited from that. I'd like to hand over now to another speaker who has had many years of experience in Kazakhstan, Timothy Gitzel, President and CEO of Camaco Corporation. I'll hand over to you now.
Well, thank you very much, Gordon, and thanks to Serba for the invitation to join this very, very distinguished group today. Let me start by saying hello to everyone, Your Excellencies, my friend Ambassador Kamel, Nicolas Brousseau, Ambassador, nice to see you, sir. Former Ambassador Margaret Stock, good friend of ours from many, many years ago, many senior government officials and distinguished guests. It's nice to be with you today. Let me start by saying I hope that you and your families are doing well, both physically and mentally. This hasn't been an easy time for any of us, and we're all certainly looking forward to the day that we can get things back to whatever normal will look like going forward. Certainly pleased to be here to join Ambassadors Kamel and Brousseau and to celebrate these 29 years of economic relations now between Canada and the Republic of Kazakhstan. I'm always very honored to be invited to celebrate and to speak about the Canada-Kazakhstan relationship, and that's because Kazakhstan does indeed hold a very special place for me. Certainly on a professional basis through Camaco, but also on a personal one. I tried to count the number of times that I visited Kazakhstan over the years, and I think I ended up around 50. Unfortunately, the last one's been over a year ago, and I'm certainly looking forward to going back. My relationship with the country and the great people of Kazakhstan goes back more than 25 years. It was back in the early 1990s that I first traveled to Almaty to meet with government officials to discuss how our countries and our companies might work together to develop Kazakhstan's prolific uranium mines. I can tell you we were warmly received back then, and our relationship has only gotten stronger through the years. Our company Camaco has been present in Kazakhstan since 1992. We are very proud to be joint venture partners with Kazatomprom, the national operator for uranium production in Kazakhstan at the joint venture Inkai, which is a uranium mine in the Turkestan region. After years of teamwork and collaboration, commercial production at Inkai started in 2009. It is today one of the top performing mines in the world, employing hundreds of local people and having just an absolute unwavering focus on safety and environmental protection. Over the past 20 years, along with Kazatomprom, we've invested over $500 million in the Inkai mining project, as well as put millions of dollars into corporate social responsibility initiatives in the country. Today, Camaco and Kazatomprom are the world's largest and most successful producers of uranium, and we share the goal of bringing the multiple benefits of nuclear energy to the world. The most important today, of course, is the role that it plays in combating climate change. Over the years, I've witnessed the bilateral ties between Kazakhstan and Canada strengthen in many areas, such as diplomatic relations, investment, and trade. Given my longstanding history and close personal relationship with Kazakhstan, it is absolutely a privilege and an honor for me to serve as the honorary consul of Kazakhstan to my home province here in Canada, Saskatchewan. And I thank Ambassador Kamel for that honor. As was already mentioned, not long ago, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau met with President Tokayev on the sidelines of the 56th Munich Security Conference. We understand the meeting was both cordial and fruitful. During the meeting, they spoke, among other things, about Camaco's business record in Kazakhstan. We at Camaco were humbled and honored by President Tokayev's kind words. We were also very reassured to see President Tokayev reaffirm his readiness to continue providing all necessary conditions for Canadian companies to do business in Kazakhstan. This is even more relevant given that Kazakhstan is Canada's largest trading partner in Central Asia. And our trade with Kazakhstan is growing. I think we are now ranked among Kazakhstan's top 15 largest investment partners. And as I know others have said, there's a lot more room to grow. Throughout all of this, we have had unwavering and tremendous support from our embassies, from Ambassador Kamel here in Canada, and by Ambassador Nicolas Brousseau in Nur-Sultan, and those who came before. And for that, I say we are very, very grateful. The bonds, as mentioned by other speakers between our countries, continue to grow with the forming of the Kazakhstan-Canada Business Council, or KCBC, as we call it, in 2016. Creation of the KCBC has been one of the key measures to promote cooperation, trade, and investment between companies and organizations of Kazakhstan and Canada. Through the KCBC, the aim is to help build relationships that are mutually beneficial and cultivate partnerships and friendships that will last. I'm very honored to co-chair the KCBC along with Mr. Galimjan Pirmatov, President and CEO of Kazatomprom, and we're grateful to be supported by our friends at Serba. We at Camaco are also very proud to be the Canadian representative on President Tokayev's Foreign Investors Council, a position we have held since 2009. I look forward to participating in the next Foreign Investors Council meeting, which will be held virtually with President Tokayev on June 10th of this year, just 1 month from now. And I will be sure to mention today's meeting to President Tokayev. Over the years, we at Camaco have seen firsthand how much the Kazakh people and country have to offer. Both of our countries possess a deep pool of talented people with technical expertise second to none, and we're proud to have nurtured those relationships and watched them grow over the years. In closing, I would like to acknowledge and thank Serba and all of the organizers for bringing everyone together today. Your efforts to enhance and support trade, investment, and good relations between our countries are very important. With this collaboration and the availability of groups like the Foreign Investors Council and the KCBC to help navigate, I believe many, many more companies can follow a path like Camaco's and enjoy the rewards of doing business and building friendships with the people of Kazakhstan. Our partnership with Kazakhstan and Kazatomprom has been a source of great pride over 29 years, and we look forward to continuing this relationship for many decades to come. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tim. I hadn't appreciated the number of years that you had personally been involved in Kazakhstan. I feel like a relative newcomer amongst some of you here, but very interesting to hear your words and some of your insights on the business that Camaco has been doing here for 29 years. I think it's worth highlighting one of your last comments about the deep pools of talented people here. I think I would reiterate that as well for those who are listening in. I think Kazakhstan does have a very deep pool of talented people. I see it in the finance industry myself. And I'm aware of that in other areas as well. And I think foreign investors should be heartened by that. And I think it's an important point for potential investors to keep in mind. I would now like to turn over to another long-termer, David Barker, General Director of Exim Trading. David, over to you.
Thank you, Gordon. Good morning to our colleagues in Canada. Добрый вечер нашими коллегам в Kazakhstan. Thank you for this opportunity to share my experience and my views. I'm rather humbled by the list of speakers to this point. I would like to share my experience and my views on what it takes to be a successful business in Kazakhstan. And it will sound quite obvious, but it has been surprising to me after 19 years in Kazakhstan, how often this is not practiced. Just 2 minutes, 1 minute about me. I have an oil and gas background, over 30 years in management. Since I've been here for 19 years, in 2002 is when I came. I have been with 3 publicly traded companies here in Kazakhstan. Currently, I'm the general manager of Exim Trading. Exim has been in Kazakhstan for over 20 years and mostly supplying goods and services for the oil and gas, mining, and industrial sectors. In the 19 years I've been here, I've seen so many changes and so much significant growth that the other speakers have done a very good job of representing. I will join in and say that Kazakhstan not only has a strong physical infrastructure in terms of business support, but also, as others have said, a highly educated workforce. And I believe there are many business opportunities here to be exploited, to be shared in, and very strong growth potential. My theme that I would like to talk about is one of my pet peeves. I know that's a slang phrase, but one of my problems that I see in foreign companies coming in here, and it is strong corporate governance. It's not a term we talk about all the time. You know, a little bit from Wikipedia, corporate governance is the structure of rules, practices, and processes used to direct and manage a company. That's obvious. And again, what I want to say seems obvious, but it isn't always practiced, especially in the small and medium enterprise foreign investment that come here, or the startup foreign investment that comes here. As Norman, Mr. Storm said, Kazakhstan does have a tendency to be bureaucratic. We love our stamps, original contracts, our signatures. And the improvements made in just the last 5 to 10 years with all of the eGov and the online registration and the ability one-stop government access, the changes in the subsurface rules and regulations have really done amazing things to make it better. But the key here is to do it and do it right. Take it seriously. I'm again surprised when I see this not done. Hire professional, experienced advisors, both local and international, accountants, qualified engineers, get good employees, use something I had a personal experience with, proper limiting and legally binding delegation of authority documents and process in your organization. You all say, and we all say we do this, but it matters here. Have a strong HR director. Have a strong chief accountant. Pay the money. hire people with experience and education who know what they're doing. And these are all available here. And it's not just about running your business properly and making a profit. It means to take the extra steps that you might not take if you were operating in Canada or the US, to have deep knowledge of your operations and your compliance. It has to be a top-down corporate governance effort. I want to say every story I have ever heard of in my 19 years of a legally corporate takeover, aggressive competition, or bothersome interference from different government agencies starts with a weak management, bad due diligence, weak powers of attorney, simply sloppy work. Do your work, do it well, apply the proper rules to business. And Kazakhstan has a great opportunity here, but you have to have strong management. If you're in a business, to B2B business, know your clients, know what their payment terms are, know what their abilities are. If you're a subsurface user in mining and oil and gas, know the rules, hire knowledgeable people. Don't take shortcuts. It sounds obvious, but there are good, experienced professionals here, and there are becoming more and more with Western education, with Western experience, with Western business practice experience, and they want to work in well-run companies. So with experience, strong leadership, and a top-down approach to good corporate management, there are huge opportunities in Kazakhstan. I find it to be a place that I want to continue to work. I want to stay here and work for the right people. I have been general director of seven different companies here, and it is a very reasonable experience and rewarding experience on well-run companies. It is a very frustrating experience when they're not well-run, and fortunately I have had the good experience and unfortunately the bad. So that's the theme of my talk is strong corporate governance, and the opportunities here, I believe, are not limitless. Of course, nowhere are they limitless, but they are extraordinary and very much available. Thank you.
David, thank you very much for that. And I really could not agree more with you. It is a theme that I follow in our bank as much as it sounds like you do in your business. And I agree, there really are capable people here who you need to focus on. And I would say, as you mentioned, a strong HR head and a strong chief accountant. They will be your best friends. Something that I have known in my experience here as well. So thank you very much for those insights. Our final speaker, last but not least, I would like to hand over to Mark Finley. He's the Business Development Manager and Policy and Process Manager for AGI CDCS Kazakhstan joint venture. And I'm sure Mark will tell us a little bit more about what that joint venture does here in Kazakhstan. Over to you, Mark.
Thanks, Gordon. Appreciate that. So first off, I'd like to thank Ambassador Kamel and Ambassador Brousseau for their support and give kind of a quick well wishes for Eid Mubarak for everybody here. Just on a personal note, I have been in Kazakhstan for about 13 years. I was fortunate to almost start my professional career in Kazakhstan. I graduated university. I had spent some time in the military in Canada, and then was fortunate enough to be given an opportunity to come over and work for a small company in Almaty and throughout the region. Today, I'm just going to quickly talk about our experience as a small or a medium-sized company, and kind of describe the success and support international companies can expect in Kazakhstan. We have a unique perspective as a medium-sized organization. We heard a lot already today, kind of at what I would call maybe a macro level or very large organizations and the support that they receive at the government level. But I think it's really important to highlight the role that small and medium-sized companies play in an economy, whether it's Canada's or Kazakhstan's. Very large employers contribute a huge amount to the national economy, and the decisions and the policies that are set out by the politicians, they have an impact. They have a real impact on guys like us. And Kazakhstan has been very supportive, increasingly so in the last few years, and we've felt it. We appreciate it, and I just kind of wanted to point out that if you're a small company or a medium-sized company and you're thinking that you're not going to receive the same level of support as your large multinationals, I would say you will. There are all kinds of different programs. There's lots of opportunities available for any size company to come to Kazakhstan. Our company has been in Kazakhstan now for about 20 years. Back in 1998, the guys came over, and the original shareholders came over. Recently, I would say as of about 6 or 7 years now, we took it on ourselves to find a local partner for many of the reasons that some of the other speakers have talked about. And it's ended up being very, very beneficial for us. Right now, we have probably about 1,000 employees. 97% of them, if not more, are Kazakhstani citizens. And we've, over the last few years, we've increasingly kind of gravitated towards nationalizing even management positions, very much to our benefit. What we do, frankly, is we work in Tengiz, and we provide rig moving, rig support, and civil construction. So we have a large fleet of equipment, a large base, and we provide those services to the companies in Tengiz, and kind of throughout the region. We're expanding a little bit. But so today, I just wanted to kind of talk about what to expect when you come to Kazakhstan, and the support that you can expect to receive. A lot of the speakers have already spoken about local content and developing a good program for that. We've done it. We continue to do it, and it's proved very, very helpful for us. Our safety has gone through the roof as we're able to better understand the culture and mentality, which helps us kind of communicate the rules and communicate our processes so that ultimately everybody stays safe. The other thing I would mention is that the procurement rules and how you do business is going to vary between companies and industries. And in order to better understand those and be successful, you need to be present in Kazakhstan. You need to develop relationships. You can't sit home in Canada and expect to kind of get that first big contract and then come over. You do need to make an initial investment and trust that things will work out. And to reiterate what other people have said already, there's a very large, educated and motivated workforce. The motivated part I would really emphasize on, because I think it shows itself even at the political level, you see how motivated Kazakhstan is to develop and to become a major player on the world stage. And I think they've had great success with that so far. So not to take up any more time, I would kind of conclude with one of the best things you can do is really respect and understand the communities that you're operating in. You know, it's easy to think that, well, you can just go to the government level and receive that, you know, high level support, but a lot of times it's far more efficient to be operating at the local level. And to do that, you really need to respect and understand the place that you're in. Kazakhstan's large, as is Canada, and not all regions are the same. So there is not one size fits all for Kazakhstan. You really need to understand where you are and respect that. The other thing I would say is be present early and often. You know, if you're thinking of coming over, do a bit of research, understand the opportunities that are there, but then just get on an airplane, come and understand and talk to people. Obviously, maybe don't get on the airplane right now with COVID in mind. You know, be safe first of all, but you know, hopefully in a few months it'll be safe to do so. And kind of to wrap up, Kazakhstan's a great place to work and invest. So we've been here for 20 years. We have no plans to go anywhere else. So again, thank you very much to everybody for the opportunity to speak, and stay safe.
Thank you very much, Mark. Some really interesting and practical advice there, I think, from you and from a company that has been here as many years as yours. I think very briefly to wrap up, it's fair to say we have had really some fascinating speakers here this evening, some really interesting insights from the macro level right down to the more micro level, with some of the business speakers who have been giving some practical advice. I think it's been a very interesting history for 29 years of economic and diplomatic relations between Canada and Kazakhstan. And perhaps it's serendipitous that in another 29 years, we will be at 2050, which I think is an important milestone for Kazakhstan in some of its latest strategic development initiatives, as has been mentioned. We don't have time for a Q&A session this evening, but if anybody does want to submit questions to any of our speakers, the SERBA team can help facilitate that. You can submit your questions in writing, and we can put you in touch with some of the individual speakers if you would like to discuss topics and issues with them any further. And as I think a final comment, of course, I would like to close with a very sincere thank you to all of our speakers, Ambassador Kamel, Ambassador Brousseau. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. All of our other speakers, thank you very much for taking the time. It really has been a very interesting and insightful webinar. I think, frankly, one of the most interesting that I have attended. Personally, I've been here for 8 years, but I learned a lot about some of the development of Kazakhstan and the relations between Kazakhstan and Canada, and I thought I was fairly well informed. So thank you for all of your insights and practical advice, as well as some of the very interesting anecdotes of experience here. I will now hand over to Taskin for any final administrative topics that you would like to cover before we sign off.
Yes, thank you, Gordon. Just small comment, what I wanted to say on behalf of female representation, maybe in next 29 years, there'll be 50-50 women in business, since I see there is only Margaret and me, myself here, and around the gentleman. So that's a joke. Once again, thanks to all your participation. Very fascinating, interesting experience, 10 to up to 25 years. And welcome to join KCBC, Canada Kazakhstan Business Council, which business is now getting wider and more active. And thank you, ambassadors, for your continuous constant support.